everybody, welcome to XA Live, Chi Alpha at UNC. And you might be able to tell tonight that we're in a little bit different location than we have been in previous weeks. That's intentional because tonight's going to be a little bit different. Tonight is our Pink Elephant Night, and if you're not familiar with that, once a semester we wrestle with an issue that is either ignored or avoided, or even just not delved into deeply enough in our culture from a faith perspective. And so it's the elephant in the room, and therefore we have the pink elephant. We do this once a semester. So tonight's that night, and with a month and a half to go to the election, we're going to be talking about politics. So if you guys are ready, let's talk about politics tonight. Well, I chose the playground behind us because to me it's a little bit representative of the way I see discourse, debate, and especially politics in our culture these days. It seems like kids on a playground at recess, if you will, where the teachers are like, whoo, finally a break. They go off to the side, they're still there, but the adults leave the space and the kids kind of run amok, and inevitably there's an argument, right? There's name calling, they get their buddies together to kind of like rally people to their cause, and it's just really an immature way of disagreeing, if you will. And in politics, that might look something like this, where someone may say, all the Democrats, yeah, y'all corrupt. All you Republicans, you're heartless people, you know. What that is what the Harvard Business School refers to as the fundamental attribution error. It's just a big way of saying this. When someone does something that you disagree with or makes a mistake or a poor choice, a lot of times what we're doing right now is we're labeling that person's character as that one thing, as if that's the whole of who they are, right? But the weird thing is when we are the ones that do something that people disagree with, make a mistake or a poor choice or whatever the case may be, we might feel bad about it, but in general, we apply grace and forgiveness to ourselves and we move on with our lives because we know that's not the whole of who we are. And so tonight as we get into politics, you're going to disagree. But I want you to make sure you take care to be equitable to one another. And we're going to talk a little bit about that over the next few minutes. And then what's going to happen, I'm just going to take about 7 or 8 more minutes with you right here. And then we're going to go over into the live Zoom room tonight, and we have a question and answer panel ready for you. I'm going to be the moderator. And so if you have a question about politics, you're going to send me a private message in the Zoom call. And then I'm going to give it to the panel as an anonymous question, and they're going to try and answer it. Now, we may not have time to get to everybody's questions, but hopefully by the end of tonight, we're going to walk out of that room with a really solid understanding and respect for one another as we go forward in this season with a month and a half to go to the election. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing I would say is this. We've got to put our faith filter first, okay? You can't put your politics filter up front when you're navigating issues and debates and arguments. You got to put your faith filter first. Politics, identity, causes, all that stuff has to come after that as a Christ follower. That's the first thing. But the reality is, how do we do that? Well, I want to draw you to something that happened when Jesus was with the disciples and the religious leaders came to him and they said, what's the greatest commandment? And it was a trap, but he, of course, was ready for what they were saying to him. And he said, here's the deal. The law and the prophets and everything that you shape your life around and what's important to you, I can sum up in this. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Now that became known in Christian circles as the law of Christ. And in fact, the Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2 says, this is how you fulfill that. He says this, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And that is the great challenge to us tonight, is to carry each other's burdens. Now that sounds good. But how do we do it? I'm going to borrow from Andy Stanley for a few moments to explain how we can do this. The first thing is listen. And not just listen to people who are like you or think like you and just confirm what you think you already know. Listen to people whose experiences are very different than yours. And you might just begin to gain some empathy and a different perspective or a broader perspective and certainly a more human perspective. The second thing is learn. We need to become students rather than just critics. It's okay to criticize things, but if that's all we're doing when we're learning or listening to people, then we're missing the boat. The atheist Sam Harris says this. He says, pay attention to the frontiers of your ignorance. That is really hard stuff to hear, but something we all need to not only hear but practice, right? And then thirdly is love. Listen, learn, and then love. My challenge to you, this is again from Andy Stanley, but my challenge to you in concurring with him tonight is this: never burn a relationship bridge over a political view. Political views by nature are imperfect and evolving, okay? And they don't very often fully fit with the scriptures or Jesus' model in any case. Never burn a relationship bridge over a political view, because God cares far more about that person you're in relationship with than whether you win a political argument. So listen, learn, and love. And then this is what's going to happen when you do that. The things that divide us will begin to diminish, and the things that unite us will begin to surface. And that's really critical during this time, as you can imagine, that happens, especially in the body of Christ as we navigate things. So yes, the challenge is carry each other's burdens and fulfill the law of Christ. And those are some very simple ways in which we can do that. And I'm giving those to you tonight because I think we need those tools as we listen and hear from one another and answer these difficult questions, and especially in the days ahead, how we live them out in this environment. Now I'm going to finish with this tonight because I think it's also the thing that Jesus cares most about as you talk about politics or any issue that can bring about disagreement. Just before Jesus is arrested and crucified, he's praying, and this is captured in John chapter 17. I really encourage you to read the book of John, especially 17. 17 might be my favorite chapter of John. John might be my favorite book of the Bible. And so his prayer is captured. It's pretty lengthy, but in 17 verse 11, this is what he prays when he's about to release the disciples into the world, into the secular environment, into the political realities and cultural realities that he's asking them to not quite fit into. This is what he prays for them. Holy Father, protect them by the power of your name, the name you gave me, so that, and that's really important that you catch this next part, they may be one as we are one. Unity is what Jesus prays for his disciples just before he releases them fully into a secular world without him. And that's really important for us to note. Now you might be thinking for a moment, well, that verse is about the disciples, and it was, but the prayer keeps going, and then we pick up in verse 20, you're going to find that Jesus included you in that prayer too. Verse 20, John 17. He says, my prayer is not for them alone, meaning the disciples. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. And that is, of course, me and you, and all believers for all time, because they were the starting point of the message going forth. Unity. Unity. I love Ravi Zacharias' quote from years ago when someone said, I can't believe in Jesus because of all the denominations and the splits within the church. And his response was quite simply this: you know, you can still have uniformity, you can still have unity without uniformity. And that's going to be the case for all of us. We're going to have to accept. Why? Because we're not all going to agree politically. Because despite the fact that certain parties tell you that you should be a part of their party because you're a Jesus follower, none of them fully embrace the scriptures and the teachings of Jesus in their policies. They might have it on one issue but not on another, and so forth. And we have to accept that reality. Christianity does not fit neatly in political parties. Does that mean you shouldn't be a part of a political party? No, that doesn't mean that at all. Hopefully if you've joined one, you're transforming it. Okay? But here's the deal. We're going to disagree politically, and it's okay. But when we disagree politically, we have to match that with loving unconditionally. Disagree politically, but love unconditionally. And here's the last thing. Come November, whoever wins the presidency, if it's Biden, we're not getting communism and socialism. If it's Trump, the world's not going to fall apart either. We have a pretty doggone good type of government system. Now, is it perfect? No, not at all, okay? But the thing is, Jesus is still going to be in charge of our lives. He's still ruler over everything. He's still king, and he will still be that after the election is all over. And we need to lean in on him, and we need to lean into each other and remain unified, fulfill the law of Christ by carrying each other's burdens and expanding our understanding and care for one another as we wrestle with these difficult questions and quite honestly, a beast in politics that it's just hard. It's just hard. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to hit the link over there in the chat to jump in the Zoom room, and we're going to join you over on that side in just a second, and you'll send me your questions, and I'll share them with the panel, and hopefully we'll come out of the night in really good shape. Hey, love you guys, praying for you, and we'll see you on the other side.